Steel. It's my preferred medium to work in. I love to make stuff out of it. It's strong, it's durable, it's relatively easy to work and shape. You can drill holes in it, you can bolt it together, you can weld it. But all that requires the correct tools. And if you don't have the correct tools, then working with steel becomes a whole lot harder. Let's take a really good look at something that I think is very important if you're going to do any amount of shaping of steel. Greetings, fellow DIYer, and welcome to my video. I've been working with steel for a lot of years. I make all kinds of things. I make big things, I make small things. For me, working in steel is not a problem at all. One tool that I've had for years that has allowed me to shape steel, to square off edges, to freehand round things off, generally cut it down to size, get it so that it's a nice snug fit, is that right there. That is a Porter Cable benchtop belt sander. Now, that particular unit is designed specifically to be for woodworking, but I almost never use it for wood. I have shaped a few pieces of wood on it. I've shaped some elk antler on it. I've done some plastic on it, but 99% of what I do is some sort of metal. And that tool has served me well, but it definitely is set up for wood. It takes a lot of space. And there are a few things that I'm not real fond of on that particular tool. So when I was contacted by VEVOR and they offered to send me a 30-inch belt sander that really is generally designed for working with metal, I thought, okay, I could put that to the test. I could compare it to what I already have, and then I could give some feedback to you. Now, there are a couple things we need to go over here. First and foremost, VEVOR sent this to me free of charge. This is not a loan. They gave it to me, hoping I would put it on my YouTube channel. And I did agree to put a link to the product down in the description. However, whether you should click that link or not remains to be seen. As we go through this, I will be talking about the things I like, and I'm sure there will be some things that I don't like, because no tool, even some of the best tools, are up to my standards. And frankly, a budget tool like what VEVOR offers is not necessarily going to have all the bells and whistles. All that said, you are going to get an honest review. And I have the unique opportunity to compare it to something that I already have and that I've used for many years and works relatively well. So this should be a pretty good opportunity to compare a belt sander like this to something that may be a little more available to the average person going to Lowe's and see how they compare. Let's go ahead and get this big clunky piece of steel out of the way and get this box up on the table. And then we can go through what's in the box and get it set up. And then from there, start making some sparks. All right, let's dig into this box. Instructions, always good to look at, but let's face it, if you're anything like me, you're probably just going to try and set it up yourself, and then if there's a problem, you'll go back and look at the instructions. I've also got a cheat sheet. Looks like the basic functions of the power supply that drives the variable speed. Now, that's one thing I'm really looking forward to on this, is that it has variable speed, whereas my benchtop belt sander is just one speed, and that makes sense because it was designed to go on wood. That looks like our main belt assembly. We have belts. Here we have the motor driver with its variable speed, its RPM meter, and the buttons for some of the features, as well as start, stop, and master power. Looks like some guides of some kind, and an Allen key. That appears to be a tensioning wheel. Nice solid rubber wheel. So far, I'm fairly impressed with the quality of materials. And here we have the actual main unit, the little motor that is on it, the plug-in that goes into the power, and really it's very, very tiny. You may be looking at that and thinking that this is a super small benchtop grinder, and it really is. This is a 30-inch, and 30 inches is about what you're going to find in this price range. Now, if you're a knife maker or you've seen any fabrication channels that deal with like knife making and things, a 72-inch is a really fancy, much larger grinder than what we have here. And you get what you pay for. Those are very expensive. I would love to have one, but right now, it's just not in the budget for what I have. But a unit like this, while being smaller, is still very versatile, I believe. Still remains to be seen. And it doesn't take up a lot of space, which is super nice. All right, let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna start by adjusting this so that it is vertical. It's the way you see it listed on the website, and it's the way that most people are probably going to use it. I do like the dual nut system right here for tightening. Turn that so you can see it. You've got the main pivot nut, and then you've got this slotted hole for the secondary nut. And the fact that you can tighten them both down really allows you to lock that in place. The guides on the other machine only have a single nut, and I'm not real happy with how they work. That's the biggest downfall to me of that other machine. So after looking at this further, I see that I have options. This is my round grinding wheel. So when I have a belt on this, if I want a round surface to work on, that's the option there. And I also have this as my vertical grinding option. And I believe that's the configuration that I want to put it in. That's where I am most likely to use it because frankly, I have several bench grinders, with a stone wheel, and so I'm probably not going to use it that much in that configuration. That was a super easy swap, super easy install. There's just a simple socket head cap screw on the backside here, and then you also have a tightening lever to tighten it up. And that gives you options to rotate it. So if I loosen this up and I loosen this one up, I can now adjust the angle. And again, I like the fact that we have both a tightener on the pivot and we also have a tightener elsewhere so that this is really going to stay locked into place. Right here, we have our guide. We're going to go ahead and install that. Definitely lots of adjustability. I can adjust the angle on the guide. I can adjust the angle on the vertical piece so that we can get it exactly where we want it. Right now, I just want a nice 90-degree angle. Not sure off the top of my head what that piece is for. It also looks like a guide, but I'm going to have to look into the manual and see what it shows for that. Belts, looks like we have 3 of them. We've got 180 grit. We've got 100 grit, and we've got a 240 grit. I think I'm going to put the 100 grit on because usually when I'm working something, I'm wanting to remove quite a bit of material. So I was putting this together, I found something that I didn't like. It's this adjuster, it's a tightening adjuster for the depth on the arm here. And what I didn't like is that as I come around, we are making contact with this part of the body. And I thought, wow, that's a really poor design. And I was thinking I was going to have to shim that. But I found something really cool. And what I thought was something I didn't like turned into something that I really like. If you look at this setup, there is a hex head cap screw right here. And it's spring loaded. So I can take and pull on this handle, and when I do, it now spins freely without turning the screw. So this gives me the ability to pull this out and adjust this down and get it mostly tight. And then once it's tight, I can re-engage the spring and get everything locked into place. And that's pretty slick. In fact, if this ever gets out of alignment, like right now I've got it tight, let's say I want it a little more, I can pull it, adjust it, and get it back into place. And I'm here to tell you that's a pretty slick little innovation. Looks like this screw right here also has the same setup. Take two at installing this belt. Tried putting it on before and the main arm was not tightened down enough, and so we did not have the tension we needed to correctly assemble everything. That goes on really nice. I like the fact that there's a tensioning spring that's automatically going to tension this, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, I do see an issue already, and that has to do with how I put it together. The sandpaper is rubbing up against the main plate because I have it a little too close. That is an easy enough fix. And now we have it set up. It is not very big, but that's okay because we're going to be using it for more fine-tuning type stuff. Don't get this expecting it to be a 72-inch belt sander. Like I said before, I would love to have a 72-inch belt sander, but they cost a lot more than what I am willing to pay at this point in time. Now, I just noticed something else, and this was my mistake. I wish I'd caught this before. This belt is on backwards. These belts rotate in a downward so that the force is against your guide plate. And if you look right there, there is an arrow. And that's the direction that the sanding belt is designed to go. So I put it on backwards. Simple mistake, I just wasn't paying attention, and simple to fix. All we have to do is take the tension off, get everything tightened back up, and now we have the arrow moving in the correct direction. Now I'm going to spin this a little bit by hand and see where everything is lining up. Looks to me like it's walking this way, so we're going to actually make some adjustments right here and see if we can get it to walk the other direction. If you look right here, we have a nice adjuster, and that is what is centering the belt on the unit. Now, I could take and power this up and probably move it pretty slowly, but on the off chance that that caused the belt to jump, we would have a problem. So that is why I'm just doing it by hand, trying to get it centered up. And as you can see, I overshot. Now we're coming off the other end. All right, I feel pretty confident that that is close enough. That will allow me to put some power to it so that we can actually get it fine-tuned and adjusted a little further. I'll just take and simply plug this cable in right here. I'll plug it into the wall. All right, let's see what happens if we power it up. Turn it down to the slowest setting. Now we can adjust that belt, get it nice and centered. That seems to work pretty well. We got the belt nice and adjusted and seems to have decent RPM. Belt is nice and tight. I think we could probably put this to the test and throw some sparks. But before we do that, we're going to go over to the bench and compare this to the other one that I have and talk about things that I like and don't like about that. Because that is what you can get at Lowe's. This has to be special ordered. So here's my Porter Cable benchtop sander. And the first thing you might notice is that it's definitely bigger. How much bigger? A lot. This is just a 30-inch belt and it's only an inch wide. This is a 36-inch belt that is 4 inches wide. So there is a lot more surface area to be able to work on this compared to that. It's got a disc sander on this side, and honestly, I hate this piece of it. I basically never use this because this thing spins so fast that if you put any metal on it, it chews up the sandpaper and makes it almost unusable. Like right now, there's no grit. I can rub my hand on that and it's not grabbing at all. So actually what I think I'm going to do is remove this part from this so that I have some room right in this area, and that's probably at least temporarily where I'm going to put that little mini belt sander. If you're wondering what I've got going on right here, this is a table on wheels. And the reason I do that is my shop is not very big. I don't have a lot of space. I have some fairly big machining equipment. The lathe you can see in the background. We've got the mill off to the side. And if I tried to put these 4 machines on one bench top, it would take up a bench as big as the one that you see there far back in the background. So by having this table on wheels, I was able to put the 2 grinders. This one has a deburring wheel and a wire wheel on one end, and this one has the stones, and then a drill press here in the back, along with this benchtop belt sander. It just gives me easy access. I can rotate it, I can easily get to it, I can go around it as I am working on a project. Biggest problem with this right here, speed is all or nothing. I have on and I have off. Whereas that other guy gave me some speed options. And what's really nice about having some speed options is, one, you're not going to be putting a ton of heat into whatever you're working if you slow the speed down. And 2, I think that the speed on this is part of why I go through belts so quickly. It just tends to kind of chew them up, and it definitely chewed them up here on the round end. I'm hoping that being able to work at a slower speed is going to reduce heat and is actually going to reduce belt wear. The last thing that I really don't like about this is the fact that it is designed to be used vertical like this or horizontal. So this moves. And that's all good and fine, except for there is no way to lock it in place. There's no adjustment. And there's been multiple times when I've been working a piece of steel or a piece of aluminum, and it's actually started to lay over because of the pressure that I'm putting into the belt. So that's definitely something that I'm not a fan of. Overall, this has served me extremely well. I have been generally very happy with this. I'm hoping that the other unit is going to work better in the long run. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, it's so small, how are you going to be able to use that? I'm probably not utilizing, I'm not typically grinding on all 4 inches. I'm working a small piece, which that other belt is going to do just fine. And ultimately, I'd eventually like to get a 72-inch belt grinder, but that, again, is down the road. So let's go ahead and fire this up and use it for the thing that I use it for more than anything else. It's one of 2 things. I use it to square something off, or I use it to round something off. So let's adjust the camera and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here we have a piece of aluminum. I grabbed that because it was just easy to work with and just in my scrap bin. We'll go ahead and turn it on. That's a common use. I use it to make this guide that is hopefully square able to create an end that is hopefully square. And like I said, I do that often on this unit. And as long as it's not super big, not bigger than about that, I'll be able to do that on that other unit because it has that nice guide, and we use that 1, 2, 3 block to make it square with the sanding surface. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on. That's the other thing that I do with this sanding unit more often than anything else. It is rounding off corners. If I'm making something, you don't want a sharp corner typically, especially if there's a chance that you can hit it with your hand or anything like that. Whereas having it rounded off, that's the difference between a really nicely fabricated project and something that has just been thrown together. The fact that I've gone in and radiused some corners, things like that. This also has a guide that goes in this direction, and I don't have that for the other one. So that is definitely something where this one has the advantage over that one. Although this is not super accurate. You can see some flex in this piece right here. So I'm not using it for things that are super critical. Like if I have something that I really need to make sure is square in both directions, I'm oftentimes taking it over here to the mill and using the mill to get it perfectly square. So off camera, I did exactly what I said I was going to do, and I removed the guide from this. And now that you can see it in the frame, you can see just how trashed this sanding disc is. And you're probably thinking, well, just change the sanding disc. And I changed it often, and it would wear out really, really, really fast. I never did find good metal cutting sanding discs for this. So I just pretty much never use it anymore. Assuming that this is where this is going to live, and there may be some adjustments made after I've used it a little bit, this will actually get mounted underneath here to protect it from sparks and debris coming off the deburring wheel here and any of that kind of stuff. But for the purpose of this test and to see how this works, I went ahead and just set it up right here. So let's go ahead and power it up. Turn it on. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. So we smooth this edge and we rounded this corner. So we're just going to take and see about smoothing this edge. You can see that it has kind of a flat finish from being water jet cut. And we're just going to slide that in there. And that took a lot of material off and gave it a really nice shine. Okay, now rounding. Kind of hard to do one-handed. Normally I would have two hands down here to get a really good guide. But you can see that it rounded it off. So this is the original one that we did. This is the one that I did here, and it worked exceptionally well. For the main things that I use this unit for, this is going to work well, and it is so much smaller that it's going to take up a lot less space. In fact, if it turns out that all I end up doing is using this, I may completely remove that from this table. That remains to be seen. After I had this over on my fabrication station, as I like to call it, I realized there's one feature that this has over the other sander that I really, really, really like. And that is the fact that the sanding belt completely covers the steel that you're pushing up against. In other words, if I'm working this piece of aluminum, I have a solid backing all the way around. But if I need to get in at a little bit of an angle, get behind, I have the ability to work and grind in like a relief or any of that kind of thing. On that other sander, the guide on the back sticks out past the belt. And the problem is you can never get any further than flat. Where here, I do have the ability to come in and get a little extra room and come in behind. Now, the downside to that is if I'm doing work that requires me to come in and kind of radius, it's going to be wearing on the outside edges of the belt. And, you know, this is a sanding belt. It's gonna wear out, but that's just something to keep in mind. As long as I'm keeping it straight and flat, it should wear evenly. If I do have the cause to come in behind and work something from behind, I'm gonna wear out the edges. But it's nice to have that feature. If this was not a rectangular piece of aluminum, if this had a little nub on it, let's say, that I needed to work, if it's sticking out and coming in contact here, I can now more easily get to it. Whereas this would have hit the backside of the belt guide on that other unit. All right, let's draw some conclusions on this, go over the things I like, things I don't like. Number one, something that I like. It is small. It fits on my bench, doesn't take up a lot of space, is going to work for what I need it for without taking up a ton of room. Something I don't like about it, it's small. This is a tiny little bench sander. Don't buy this expecting it to be a 72-inch belt sander. When you're looking at this online, it's kind of hard to gauge the size. And this is perfect for small projects, small work. If I was a knife making shop, I would spend the money for the 72-inch belt sander. Ultimately, you get what you pay for. This is in the $200 price point range. A 72-inch belt sander is anywhere from $600 to $1,000, depending on which one you get and what accessories it comes with. So know going in that this has tons of uses, but is quite small. Second thing that I like about this is the variable speed. Now, this is a servo type motor. That's why it had that fancy controller. And I was looking at the directions. You can do all kinds of settings on that. You can minimum speed, maximum speed, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of features on this that I will probably never use. I will plug it in, turn it on, and turn it up to the speed that I want it to be at, and then it'll probably live at that speed until I'm working a different piece of material. Something that could be an issue is this motor is small. Now, if you've seen other videos on my channel, you know that there is a direct correlation between the amount of torque that a motor produces and the size of the motor. And the potential is there with a small motor for it to bog when you're using it. Now, what's nice about this is being a sander, you control how much load is on it by how hard you push the work into the belt. And so the fact that it's a fairly small motor is really not that big of a deal. Again, I'm going to be using this for smaller work. So I'm not going to be trying to hog off tons of material really quickly on a large piece. For me personally, the fact that this motor is fairly small is not going to be an issue. Something I absolutely love about this is the versatility. The ability to make adjustments on the fly, to change this out. I can see fabricating various versions of this to have different shapes and different areas to work with right here. And the framework is already there. All I have to do is make it attach in at this point. And I can put wheels and any kind of thing that I want over here and get it to work just the way I want it to. So there's tons of versatility here, especially since I have some fabrication skills. It also comes with this. Again, I don't see myself using this because I have a bench grinder. So there's not a lot of reason for me to use this. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to throw that away. This is here in case I need it in the future. Overall, I am pretty happy with this unit. I think it's going to get a lot of use in my shop. Now, I haven't really put it to the test. You have not seen me work steel for hours on end with this because, well, frankly, that would be a boring video. But I am going to use it. I'll use it as I need to in the shop, and it will be put to the test. For the moment, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the construction. I'm happy with the fit and finish. I'm happy with the size. I'm happy with the features. If I bought it expecting a 72-inch belt sander, I would be very dissatisfied. But I wasn't expecting a 72-inch belt sander because I can read. This is a 30-inch belt sander. Compared to the other unit I have, I think this is going to be superior. That other one having only one speed is kind of a one size fits none. Well, that's not completely true. It's one size fits wood. That's what that was designed for, is to work wood. And if you're going to be working metal, you do need to have more options, and this gives me those options. If you have any questions on this or anything else that you've seen on my channel, don't hesitate to put it down in the comments or contact me directly through my website, and I would love to get back to you.
If you like what you've seen, please click like. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.